Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Monday, August 11th, 2025. I, of course, am here with your daily mortgage rate update, the only place on the web where we get together every weekday morning, talk about what's going on with mortgage rates and pricing, what's going on in the markets, and what's driving it. Today, we're going to talk about a little bit about what's going on with the Fed, Mickey Bowman's comments on Saturday, talk about tomorrow's CPI inflation data that's going to be the big trigger this week, and a few other things I got up my sleeve. See? Up my sleeve. Got them up my sleeve. So anyway, if you're here this morning, say good morning, my friends. Remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Good morning, Mr. Mike Brown. We got Chris Dickerson on. Good morning, sir. Amy Blauser. Good morning, ma'am. Rob Stewart, good to see you. Michael Love, good morning. Kyle Mazikas, great to have you here as well. So if you're here this morning, say good morning. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget, just give me a hashtag replay in the comments. It does make a difference. It shows me that y'all are watching, and it's better than the analytics that I get because I never really trust those anyway. Good morning, Dave Bow, Mallory Fotiadis, Brandy Brickler. Hope y'all are having a great Monday. Remember, if you're on Facebook, smash that like button, maybe tag an originator friend in the comments there. And if you are on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. If you would like a quick reminder that I'm going live each morning, we send out a text message. No nefarious purpose. You can go ahead and sign up at hmmr.io/reminder or use this cool QR code right here. And we'll be glad to send you a quick text with the links so you could hop on and not have to depend on the social channels to remind you that I'm going live. If you would like our email, we send an email every weekday morning with what's going on, a quick overview. You can sign up for that at ratelockadvice.com or, of course, use this cool QR code. There it is over here as well. And last but not least, for now, you can sign up for our text alerts at ratetextalerts.com. They're a whopping $7 a month. Go check them out. Good morning, Mr. Ron Siegel. Ron Siegel says today is National Raspberry Bond Day. I don't know what a raspberry bomb is. Anyone fill me in on that? And good morning, Megan Bissell. Great to have you back from vacation. Hope you had a great vacation. Where'd you go? What'd you do? Hopefully you tried to unplug. I know it's hard in this business, but unplugging is key. Giddy up, Mr. Randy Teagle, Bobby J. Jones. Good morning. Michael Garcia, Tom Stafford, Candido Diaz. Great to see all of you as well this morning. Leaving straw behind today. Yeah, it's cold. It's chilly this morning. So yeah, I've got I'm going with the felt hat. Plus, here's the straw. See, I got it here. But yeah, I went with the felt hat this morning. My head's chilly. So good morning, Matt Rasner. All right. Well, thank y'all. Appreciate you being here this morning. Let's go ahead and get started. Somebody still needs to tell me what the heck a raspberry bomb is because I don't know. So but we'll take a look here. Let's go on mortgage-backed securities. Presentify. There we go. Mortgage-backed securities currently down 3 basis points on the day. That's basically flat. That means that we should see rate sheets that are about the same as what we've seen the last few days. And you can see that here. I mean, 6.57 last week was basically that key number. We were up a tick, down a tick, but at the end of the day, rates were really, really stable. Pricing was stagnant last week. Not much of a move at all. When we take a look at mortgage-backed securities, I'll put this on 3 months so we can kind of dig in. You see here that we're kind of in this channel right here, and we're out of it a hair this morning, but everything's kind of flattened out, right? We had one good day. Remember, when we're looking at this, we kind of want to wrap our head around what's going on with the market and what effect it's going to have on rates as we get into that. So when you take a look here and you see that we had, one solid day when we got that BLS jobs data, and it showed all those revisions and everything changed versus kind of where we're at right here, it's kind of leveled off. So tomorrow morning, we're going to get one of those opportunities to see that same kind of behavior. But we don't know which direction it's going to go. We don't know whether it's going to go up or down. So that's a big part of what we got to be ready for today. As far as rate sheets, so they're going to be about the same as yesterday, not much different. You're going to continue to see things almost exactly where we were at. Let me go ahead and bounce this over, pop this over here, and pop this like that. And I'm going to move the bottom up. All right, let me get rid of this. There we go. So taking a look, mortgage-backed securities. Let me refresh this so I can kind of put this over here. The 10-year Treasury yield, it's a hair higher than where it was yesterday or Friday. 4.27 on Friday, so 4.28 right now at the moment. Also flat. Now, reprice risk on the day is moderate. We could see bonds drift today. There's nothing on the economic calendar. The economic calendar is empty on the day. So there's nothing going on in the economic calendar until tomorrow's CPI inflation data that's going to come out at 8:30 in the morning. Good morning, Lisa. Good to see you. Mike Morano, Allison Foy, Carmen, Amuendo. Great to have all of you here. So tomorrow we get the inflation data. Right now, you take a look here. The inflation expectation and where we're at is that it's going to go up a little bit. Let me find. All right. So economists polled by Reuters expect the core CPI, which is the one that the Fed is going to be watching and the one that markets are going to be watching, that the core CPI will have risen 0.3% in July, pushing the annual rate higher to 3%. Remember, this is the CPI inflation data, which the Fed is looking for the PCE inflation data. That's their primary gauge, their favorite gauge. So when we look at 2% inflation and 3% for this number, it's not the gauge that they're using. The PCE is, so we don't have to panic too much, but basically the idea here. Money market traders pricing in around a 90% chance of a rate cut next month. 58 basis points of easing are priced in by year's end. Let's take a look and see if you use, here it is, CME Group. It is down a tick, right? And this is showing some weakness. Remember, expectations were we were in the 90s, the mid 90s last week for the Fed cutting rates in the September meeting coming up September 17th. That is starting to creep down a little, and a little bit of a higher expectation the Fed may not cut. So if that CPI data comes in very high tomorrow or higher than expected, you're going to see this drop. This will come down, into maybe the 70s somewhere, like right around here, probably, maybe even lower. Depends on how much it misses. And that's going to cause rates and pricing to creep a little bit higher. Again, the Fed does not set mortgage rates, but there is an influence to it. And if we see expectation of Fed rate cuts drop, it goes along with everything else that controls mortgage rates and why we wouldn't see those moves. So keep that in there. Aumendo. Did I get that right? Aumendo? Carmen Aumendo. There you go. So anyway, that's what we got going on as far as this part here. Let me throw the lock advice piece of this up here. Where is it? There you go. It's pretty much the same as where we're on Friday. So if I've got a loan closing the next couple of weeks, I'm locking it because we don't have a crystal ball heading into tomorrow's data. And it really, there's a lot more room if that data comes in hotter than expected. There's more room to see this fall down. That's our current kind of direction. Remember, we had a strong momentum shift when, if you look at the 5-day, we had that strong momentum shift, but now look at what's happened. It's kind of filtered down. So, we had, let's turn this green, right? We had a positive. Remember, when we go up on this chart, that is good for rates and pricing. But when we go down, that's bad for rates and pricing. So then we started to lose ground. On Friday, we kind of settled in to end the day, which that's also because all the traders go home. Remember, we've talked about that before. Fridays, summer Fridays. So this morning we're flat and we're likely to stay flat. But again, if we do see bonds drift lower, if we go down to minus 14, minus 16 basis points on the day, you'll see reprices worse. So if you're going to lock, you don't have to rush to lock this morning. You can cautiously float as long as you're doing something like maybe getting our text alerts where we'll tell you if things start to move. That's why our text lock advice service is so valuable, because if we start to see a reprice situation where lenders are likely to reprice worse, we will go ahead and send you a text alert to lock those loans. But I would lock anything closing in the next couple weeks. If you've got a little more time, 15 to 30 days, I would lean towards locking those because the dilemma that we have is we're not going to see a lot of big movement until we get to the BLS jobs data, which will be Friday, September 5th. So that's like right at the end of the window for a lot of these loans that are closing in within the next, say, 30 days. Today's the 11th. So you're right at the end of that lock window. And I don't know that I would want to float into jobs data with that little time to recover. So if you're closing and I mean, look at where the rates are at. If you like what we've seen, 6.57, 6.55, I mean, we're right here. These are the best rates we've seen since March. Look at previous before that. These are all 6.75, 6 and 7/8, 6 3/4. And right now, you should be seeing rate sheets that are closer to 6.5, maybe 6 5/8. Depending on your ability to buy down as well, it might make sense for some things. So it's a good time to lock some of those loans. That's my take on it. Randy said, what's the everything else that that drives mortgage rates? Number one, you're going to find that the other economic reports, Randy, that is there signs of economic weakness? Like later this week, we're going to have retail sales on Friday. If that were to come in weak, signs of economic weakness, or if the tariffs are really starting to slow things down, a slower economy would be good for mortgage rates. It's going to see mortgage rates improve a little bit. Also, if the idea of inflation, the main thing is the inflation, right? So everyone is worried about stagflation, which is when the economy slows down and inflation increases. We haven't seen a lot of, I mean, you could say that we haven't seen a lot of inflation. Remember my barn? I bought my barn in November, and I showed you guys last week. It was $1,000 higher now than when I bought it in November, right? I mean, that's what inflation is. That's and a lot of that has to do with tariffs. Car prices. You're not going to see deals as much. So it doesn't necessarily show up as true inflation on readings. Think about car stuff, right? You've got all these specials and different things. So that's going to show up on the inflation reports, because if car sales drop, if things dwindle, you're going to see all that show up. So that's a lot of that. But hotter than expected inflation could deliver a reality check to the market, potentially causing stocks to stumble. And for our world, it could cause bonds to lose ground as well. Right now, markets are pricing in the idea that we're going to see a September cut. There's a strong possibility in the market's minds, Fed futures traders, that we're going to see a October cut, and that by the time we roll into December, again, it's almost a neck and neck that we'll either see 2 cuts by then, which would be this column here, or that we'll see 3, which would be in this column here. That's 3. So that's the expectation. If this starts to drop, if this increases, that's going to be something that would sorry, thought it was something around my leg. That was a cat. Anyway, that would see rates creep a little bit higher. But overall, one thing to remember, and it's actually like kind of a really good thing, is we're not going to see rates go up that much from here. We're not in a position that we have to worry about rates jumping, rates pushing back up into the 7s. We're just fighting for some better pricing. Even if the data tomorrow comes in hot, you're going to see rate sheets that go back to where they were a couple of weeks ago, not go up any crazy amount. So in other words, let me go ahead and you'll see rate sheets that are going back to here. We would see rates jump up 6 and 7/8 from that 6 and 5/8. We'd see up to a quarter point increase tomorrow. And it would happen over a couple of days, but a lot of the knee jerk would happen tomorrow. Now, if that data comes in lower than expected, it will rejuvenate the idea that the Fed is going to be able to cut rates heading further into the year. And you will see rate sheets improve a little bit. How much? Not tremendous, but a little bit. Ron says, oops, that was the typical bomb. Thank you. Heavy cream, sugar, chopped nuts, candied fruit, and a dash of rum. That sounds pretty yummy. I could go for that. Gordon Cheng had an interesting commentary on tariffs. They're going to cause deflation. China's economy is slowing so much they're having to lower prices to get their economy moving. That's too. I would agree, but China's only one component. We've still got you got aluminum and steel tariffs. You've got all these other tariffs coming in. So I don't know that that's necessarily the thing. China's economy is going to lower prices to get their economy moving. They have too much industrial capacity as their legit GDP is either zero or negative. He was using the propaganda numbers, but channel check numbers. Not using propaganda numbers, but channel check numbers. Starting to see compression between the 10-year and 30-year. Yeah, and actually that's the as FRM, do you mean more MBS, mortgage-backed securities? What is FRM for you? 30-year, I don't know, FRM. But the compression between the margins. So that's something that Logan Motoshimi talks about. I have to check, make sure I'm saying his name properly. But Logan talks about, and he follows very closely. So that's a good source for getting that data. That the compression, basically, when we have a tighter compression between mortgage-backed securities and the 10-year, it allows rates to be better. Is the nutshell summary, the TLDR, if you will. So that's all you want to kind of keep a handle on. And we have seen those margins compress, and they're staying more compressed. So that's some good news on that front. But anyway, my friends, I'm going to wrap it up. The main thing is fixed rate mortgage. Okay, thank you. Let me find my caption here. Put that lock advice back up there. Anything is closing in 15 days. I just think there's too much risk. Without a crystal ball, it definitely could. If inflation comes in cooler than expected tomorrow, it's going to help mortgage rates to improve a little bit, because inflation ultimately is the killer for long-term bonds. However, if it stays down, then we're in a good spot. So anyway, keep that in mind and lock accordingly. But if it were me, I'm locking pretty good amount of my loans. Anything closing the next 30 days, I'd consider locking, because we've got really good rate sheets right now, and there's more of an opportunity to lose ground than there is to gain ground. So with that said, I hope you all have a fantastic Monday. Get out there and prospect. It's all about closing more deals right now, is what you need to be doing. So, all right, my friends, I'm going to wrap it up, and you all have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll go over exactly what happened. By then, again, the CPI data comes out at 8:30 a.m. So we'll be able to go through tomorrow. We'll see what the market reaction is, how it's affecting bonds, and kind of go accordingly. So if you do float anything today, good luck. I'm hoping tomorrow does help. So, and for loans that have time, by the way, I'm not too worried about those, because rates are not going to move that much higher. Even if they jump up a quarter point, there's a really good chance that we see them drop back down again after September. So it'll probably take a few weeks. But loans that have time, I wouldn't worry. If they're 30 days out, I wouldn't necessarily be in a hurry to lock those. So, all right, you guys have a fantastic one. Bye-bye.